In the previous video, we looked at displaying your cycle analysis information using Hurst's diamond notation. This is my preferred way of looking at the cycle analysis information, but everybody has their own way of viewing the analysis information, and so the Sentient FLD has various different ways of showing that information on your charts. Let's take a look at the next one. So as in the previous video, we're going to be discussing the concepts behind the next way of displaying your cycle analysis on the MT4 platform, but let's take a look at how you will change your analysis display on the NinjaTrader platform. Again, we open our properties for the Sentient FLD indicator. And when we look at the analysis display style, we click the drop-down arrow, and the next way of displaying the analysis is by means of sine waves. We call them waves, so we will select that and then click on the OK button. And there are our sine waves displayed at the foot of the chart. We will switch back to the MT4 platform now to understand how the sine waves represent the cycle analysis. And there are those waves. I know many analysts find this a particularly useful way of viewing the cycle analysis information. Each cycle's influence on price action is demonstrated by means of this sine curve plotted at the foot of the chart. Here is our very prominent 40-week cycle trough. You can see that all of the cycles formed a trough at that point. Notice in the past that the troughs are perfectly synchronized, as of course they should be. There is another perfectly synchronized trough. But as we move into the future, or the next expected trough, that synchronization breaks apart a little bit. You will know, of course, from the nests of lows that we looked at in the previous video, that the reason for this is the principle of variation, which tells us that cycle wavelengths are constantly varying. And so our anticipation of the next trough forming in the market is slightly different for each cycle based on the calculation of their recent wavelength. And so as we move into the future, these sine waves are not perfectly synchronized, but the message is nevertheless still very clear. We are expecting a trough to form in this market for the green cycle, that is the longest cycle that is forming a trough at this point, and the green cycle is of course the 80-day cycle as we saw in our previous video. But now what is the 20-week cycle doing? That's the advantage of this particular way of displaying your cycle analysis information. The 20-week cycle is of course this cyan-colored or pale blue-colored line, and the answer to the question in terms of what the 20-week cycle is doing right now is very clear. It is turning down. The 20-week cycle is forming a peak in the markets at the moment, and it is turning down, meaning that over this period of time in the future, we are expecting the 20-week cycle to start applying some pressure to the downside. As we scroll through our different time frames, you can see the waves are particularly useful for visualizing what these cycles are doing. Here's an example on the 4-hour chart where the yellow cycle is coming in to form a trough. Here is the 1-hour chart. Notice what the yellow cycle, the 20-day cycle, is doing in this example. It is in fact turning down. So we have a lot of downward pressure at this time, but price is bouncing up. Why is that? Probably because this orange-colored cycle has formed a trough in the market. That is of course the 2-day cycle trough that we were looking at in the previous video. Here is the 30-minute chart with that 10-day cycle trough over here at the beginning of January. And the 15-minute chart providing us with some very useful information. Notice here the trough that has now been found for the 2-day cycle. Over here are all of our acceleration points for the A category interactions with each one of these FLDs. They're a bit bunched together. I don't really like that picture very much, but that's a discussion for a later time. And here we have a neat array of cycle targets. And so that is how you display your cycle analysis using waves, sine waves, at the foot of your chart. A very useful way of looking at the cycle analysis and being able to visualize the impetus or the influence that each cycle is providing to price action. There is a third way of displaying your cycle analysis on NinjaTrader, and that is to display both the diamonds and the sine waves simultaneously. It can get a little messy, but it is a much requested feature that we have added to the NinjaTrader version of the Sentient FLD indicator. So let's go to our properties again. Again, we go to our analysis display style, and here is the combination of both diamonds and waves. So we select that and then click on the OK button. And now you will see at the foot of your chart we have both the diamonds stacked up beneath the cycle troughs, and we also have the simultaneous display of our sine waves. The only disadvantage, in my opinion, of this display style is that, as I mentioned, it can get a little messy with all of these lines, but if it works for you, then go ahead and use it.